It's terrible. I'm laughing right now on the outside. If you can't hear me, it's because you're deaf. All right. This is my apartment. Can't believe I destroyed that other free car. All right, here we go. Alright, we're gonna find someone to kill. Hopefully they have a bounty on their head so I can get some money. And they all left. Awesome. Alright, so let's talk about a topic. Let's see, okay, let's talk about misappropriations of thought. A lot of times when people are going through things like heavy depression or trying to help themselves in some way, shape, or form, or trying to hurt their own things or say something stupid, I guess. There were a lot of times when I was there were a lot of times when I felt like I was backed up into a corner, but it's not me, I guess. It's a genetic thought. So that genetic thought was probably because of a lot of danger that was around New Orleans at the time, and it happened because I think my mom and my dad went through some pretty fucked up situations in their early years, and I was a stupid kid too, because I just decided to just let it all be sometimes, because I thought that people would find it funny or someone would find it funny, and I thought that would happen to be something that that worked out to be I don't know, it just made me. It turned out a lot at times where I made up. I don't. It's not like I made up things. It's like since I used fiction a lot to be able to get to certain facts. Sometimes, a lot of times that stuff got mixed in with the stuff that I actually wanted to be able to do. So, or I wanted to be able to figure out like certain facts about people's lives and certain things about people that are just completely and utterly private. I wanted to be able to realize where my friends and a lot of my family had been coming from. So I used a lot of things to get back to that different thought pattern, and I realized that as soon as I started exercising that part of my brain, a lot more facts started flooding in, and a lot more things that I had remembered from other places and other people. They told me different things about what was going on in some of my friends' lives, and not just about my friends, but the way that they knew for them to be completely and utterly honorable. And that's the reason why I like to keep my same friends, no matter what goes on or what happens or something that's stupid, I guess. People don't understand that there are a lot of times where people don't really get things sometimes, and there is sometimes where I guess I've been and damn it, man, it's just I gotta find new sessions and stuff. There are a lot of times where I use certain facts as like a character or something, or a thing. I would use that character's backstory to try to track what my friends my friend's knowledge sometimes, or family's knowledge, or friends of friends, or family of friends sometimes, and there's certain things that I realized about. I realized I couldn't change anything, no matter what. I couldn't change anything that was happening because of certain things in their lives and certain people that they decided to be a part of, and because of them being planned around, I guess, in some ways, and people knowing what was going on in the situations and the reasons why people just needed to stay out of it, was because there were people out there that had very, very strong feelings to certain effects of things, and a lot of times there were people out there that that really affected me in a certain way and made me feel like there was something going on that wasn't. And every single time that I noticed a certain thing, all right, cool. People would understand that that there was a difference of opinion where people were leaving things out, or people were omitting things, or creating facts where there wasn't something, and that's the stuff that I believed when I was younger, and the stuff that grown-ups believed about certain people in their lives. So they may have been facts, but they were just facts about things that other people did, and how I was able to kind of work my way around that with a little bit of help from a bunch of people that like to call themselves therapists, and psychologists, and psychiatrists, and medicine. So I realized a lot of times that that if there was some sort of valid thought at all in my head, that that every single time that I would think of another thought, something would try to reinforce that, and it may have been a fictional thought or something going through my head that I thought about whenever I was doing something, thinking about like a job that I was doing, or thinking about a place that I was at. That thought would turn into an emotion, or turn into a reaction sometimes, and as that reaction decided to pull me or push me in a certain direction, or not really pull me or push me, because I don't allow emotions to completely push me sometimes. I try to, if I get mad or something like that, I push myself away from the situation, because I don't want to make a fool of myself, I guess. And I realize that there are people out there that just aren't that aren't people that have been very that have been very familiar with. So I have to realize that I have to take back the facts sometimes and rearrange them, or completely throw them out the door, or tell them exactly the reasons why I told them before that I told my own thoughts, basically, because that's how you train your brain. Sometimes you can You can talk to yourself, you can do a bunch of different stuff, and we're going to talk about a fact about it. So there are a lot of people who have schizoaffective disorder, or what people would call schizoaffective disorder, but is a high heat management thing. When you can't think sometimes, enacting your frontal lobe can actually activate certain parts of your brain. So that's the reason why people who have like heat exhaustion sometimes keep talking to themselves. So so as the people keep talking to themselves, they make a notion, or they have a synapse fire, and it gets hotter and hotter sometimes because the brain's moving and you're sweating and you're using different things. So it's the reason why a lot of people who gain a lot of muscle don't realize that it's not their brain that's enacting it, it's a hormone that's going through their body. And when that hormone goes through their body, they gain a lot of muscle, and that muscle itself, through certain acts of calmness, or certain things of let's see, certain acts of calmness, or certain motions of like, oh, this is a different city, I can start over. You'll actually start to lose muscle and and people will think that they're building on something or doing something better than themselves. But they have to understand that that's a hormone. That's a hormone that your brain releases, and a chemical buildup that's in your body. And that's what happens. So the reason why you're stronger in some situations and you're not stronger in other situations is because you feel nervous, or skeptical of a situation, or skeptical of a certain person. So there are certain people out there with muscle enzymes that can create muscle very quickly. Okay, that is probably the closest thing to, I think, the natural steroid that anyone will ever come to. And a lot of times when people are checked for steroids, a certain hormone that creates a certain natural steroid in your body sometimes can actually come up onto the radar. And understandably so, they never check for that, but understandably so, some people did, and that's a lot of times where those inconsistencies come from. I'm not saying that Russia didn't do anything, but I'm just saying that in the Olympic Games. But I'm saying that sometimes when people think that they're stronger, it means that their body's trying to enact muscle. It's trying to make muscles. The reasons why they have that ability to be able to bench press 220 pounds 10 times, or 20 times, or 30 times, it's because they're focusing their entire mind and body on the action. It's because that's the reason why. Because they're using what their strongest muscles are, is to be able to push away from yourself. No matter what you do, you're using your muscles. So it's like you're always using something. So your finer tuned muscles usually have more balance, and that's the reason why sometimes people do things offsetly, like they create a workout program for them to be able to fine tune certain muscles that are lacking in strength. And find the VIP. Okay, cool. Let's see here. I'm gonna try to see if there is a guy right there. So that's also a lot of facts about stuff. So when people get heat exhaustion, sometimes they work through a bunch of different thoughts, like I have to get water, I have to get food, or certain things like that. Those thoughts themselves don't create a word or anything, or an image inside of their mind, but it creates a feeling or an emotion of dread sometimes, because they feel as though they need some sort of emergency, or they have some sort of emergency going on. And alright, I'm gonna find this dude. So that's the reason why people would call infrasound a certain thing, but it's only a sound that certain fears are associated with. So technically, infrasound doesn't actually exist. It's merely a fearful thought or something, and also people associate that because of movies and video games sometimes, because they always listen to music while they're playing something, and they don't know they're making an emotional reflex sometimes, because when they hear dreadful music or certain things like that, they're going to realize that that they made that emotion up in their mind by associating certain things with certain heightened music or heightened beats or anything like that. So there's a lot of reflexes that kids make whenever they play video games, but they have to understand is that that's where they get their usual personality or their emotions from sometimes. And a lot of times I've noticed that, and this dude's downstairs, I think. Alright, parked it perfectly. I already have 832. So that's what happens when people try to enact certain emotions sometimes. The reason why certain people have lived a certain way or done certain things sometimes is because they felt an emotion that that made them feel comforted. And when they feel comforted, they start to associate certain things with other thoughts. They're able to live, and that's the reason why sometimes TV shows and movies do things as vaguely as possible. It's not to completely conform fit you. It's to be able to make people from a lot of different places feel better about themselves because of certain justices that actually did happen, because most of the stories are actually based on truth. Most of the stories, but also too they're elaborated on and facts are changed. People's names and a lot of different things are changed completely. Addresses, phone numbers, all the time, every single time. And a lot of times people make the different things because of the things they've heard and seen through cases in law, and that's the reason why I think that Law and Order SVU is kind of cool, because they actually made real cases of different things, or not made real cases. They actually brought things off of real cases and used a lot of different stuff that make people feel better about the justice system. And a lot of times there were people in there that decided to try to figure it out or try to do something different. And I'm gonna see where this is. There we go. Hey, what's up, man? Chilling out. I killed him, I think. Yeah, I killed him. Awesome. I'm the winner. Okay, so a lot of different facts that come about. There are a lot of people out there that think that somehow they can change someone's suggestion or someone's reaction off of something, and it's a suggestion trick. Like it's something of suggestion. Like a person speaks really softly or really loudly or really consonanty. Like they change words on consonants, or they're not saying an entire sentence. They're saying an entire sentence, basically trying to say it all in one word. Like those guys that talk fast on the commercials sometimes, they give you the thing. Those are actually real people. Those are not computers or anything like that. Sometimes they actually have to be able to. That's the reason why sometimes because computers can be hacked and they can say things differently, and they don't understand that they have to get off those things because of the time limits they have and the time constraints they have and the move they want to set during the certain commercial. So the move they set during the certain commercial, after they do a whole bunch of different stuff and say, "Oh my God, it's so comforting, this piece of lint I found in my pocket, it's so great, and if you buy it, then you'll be feel comforted too." And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with the things they do. I'm just saying that whatever product they're selling, or however they're selling the product, they're trying to make someone feel comfortable with the idea of having that product. And as they say those last things at the last part of it, like a certain phone company will have certain disclaimers and certain different charges and fees at the end of it, because of certain international fees or certain different things or taxes in certain states, and the way they make their company, or where they make their company. The reasons why they charge the taxes is to be able to make more money sometimes, because that's the reason why they hike up their prices sometimes, to be able to make a much. Okay, I'm going off into a different thing, but understandably so. There are a lot of times where people make certain things about themselves known, I guess, and what they try to make sometimes is, or what they try to do is, they try to create a system of conformity inside the commercial, and within that, kids see that all the time and understand that they've watched that constantly. They know sometimes how not to be, but understandably so. That's how things actually were in the 1940s, 50s, and stuff like that. People didn't want to change. They didn't want to change at all. They didn't want to change anything about themselves to be able to help anyone or anything like that. They were just looking out for number one. All right. That's not bad at all, but they have to understand that as soon as they start to make a business, they have to start caring about people's intentions. So as people started to do that, the whole situational irony came into effect, is that people actually started to have to care about each other in order to be able to make businesses together. So there are people with differing opinions constantly being in the same office, and they had to understand that they, not realizing it, they created a hole in their economy, in their own marketplace, by creating a rift in what they created. And how they created that was by losing certain parts of themselves. Not really losing certain parts of themselves, but trying to keep dormant the thoughts that were constantly in disagreements of other people. And that's the reason why some people fell under the radar, and our economy didn't tank as much as it was expected to, because people themselves decided to keep quiet about their own opinions, mostly women. And so realizing the same fact and the different facts that people constantly went through, there were certain people that shaped and molded our society as young ages. There were people that looked very, very ugly, and they were extremely stupid, because they did a lot of drugs, and they did so many different things. And that was including a lot of people that were in office and during the 70s, 60s, 50s, a whole bunch of different things, because they tried drugs, and then they kept doing them, and then they kept doing them in office, and then they kept doing them when they weren't in office. It was mostly weed, but understandably so. I haven't seen them really do it. I can't confirm it or not confirm it, but understandably so, I know that they did, and I know that they tried, because they're stupid. And people can be stupid that are smart. People can be smart that are stupid. People who pay attention to things are smart. People who don't pay attention to things are stupid sometimes. So that's the reason what happens. That's the reason why it happens. So I'm trying to train my brain to be able to come up with different paragraphs, and be able to come up with different things to be able to say different things. And that's the reason why I keep correcting myself, because I realize that as I'm talking with some sort of speed or some sort of notion, I talk fast, or I'm trying to practice speech basically too. So there are a lot of people that think that oh my god, I'm just learning what this lady taught me in class. No, I really know how to fix my speech. I really know how to do it, and that's the reason why. I'm trying to make reflexes sometimes to be able to communicate a little bit better, because I realized that sometimes I'd make different faces or different things, and that would make a reflex for me to say different words off the front of my mouth than the back of my mouth, because I would flex my muscles sometimes when I was actually on my muscles on my face when I was doing something, like when I was saying something, I just try to not, I try to not be emotionally invested in the situation. So I try as hard as I could to not be emotionally invested in the situation. So that's the reason why sometimes I'd make certain stupid faces and stuff like that. And I still make them whenever I'm unemotionally invested, because it's still a good thing to use. And as I realize that certain things are the way they are in my life and in my understanding of things, and the fact that my friends don't want to tell me things and they want to keep things private. I know that for a fact, and I don't want to get involved if they don't want to tell me. But there are a lot of things that I kind of want to be able to people to understand and know, is because there were a lot of times where I believed in people and tried to make them help themselves, even though they were going through tough situations, and every single emotion was pulling them, I guess. And when you start to believe that something's pulling you, it starts to pull you even more, because it's like you're pulling yourself. And I just ran into a staircase. Awesome. A lot of times when I noticed that people were going through something emotional, it's usually when they were at one of their worst moments, and a lot of times people can't stop something from happening. but they can figure out the situation and try to change the subject, or try to change something, or try to change anything, or not just try to change the subject, but realize to tackle the problem head on, and to notice that there are people out there that really, really need help, and through certain businesses and people that do different things, there are going to be certain problems because of different societies that people have decided to try to make, and different things that people actually want to be able to understand certain problems and understand different things while not paying for therapy or not doing something, because I did most of this without actually even thinking about therapy. The therapy itself was very helpful, extremely, and it always is, but I'm not going to give it credit for everything. I'm not going to give those people credit for me realizing that I'm smart, or understanding again that I can use different parts of my brain without actually hurting myself. So, but also too, that's not their fault or their folly, I guess. They just gave me an area to be able to express myself in certain ways, and some of the things that I said at the time, the way I understood them, were completely and utterly not true. So, that's the reason why I think that I wanted to use that, I guess. I wanted to use myself as an emotional kind of pillar of justice and freedom. Again, I'm laughing because I make up stupid shit sometimes. And there were a lot of times where people didn't understand what was going on in my life, and how it was going on in my life. They didn't understand that that certain things were happening, and certain people themselves needed private lives, and that's the reason why I don't share a lot, and the reason why I don't do a lot, because of... And what is this, dude? I'm kicked off the goddamn thing, you fucking bastards. How the fuck did they do that? Oh my gosh, dude. Stupid fucking hackers, man. I hate them so much. Alright, so understanding a certain reality that people perceived in my life. And that certain reality didn't ever come to pass, and they have to understand that. They have to understand that there are a lot of different reasons why there are people out there that care, and the more they try to kick me off the goddamn server, if they're not talking, why aren't they talking? It's because they're kids, man. They probably stole the game, or they got it from their parents when they weren't freaking looking, and if they find out how terribly violent it is, they're going to be freaking kicked off the server. I'm not mad at them. I'm just saying it's going to happen. So it's not my doing, but they're going to get kicked off the server. Hopefully they realize they're going to get kicked off the server. And that's the reason why usually I get kicked off the server, because they usually kick me off too. Alright, so a lot of times where I used to be in my life, there were dark places. A lot of different dark places, and dark emotional places. Not exactly dark places, but places where I would reflect on myself and realize that people didn't understand that there were certain things about me that people didn't really realize. And what they really don't know and that they really don't understand is that a lot of times in my life, whenever I was trying to do something or trying to get something done, people wouldn't realize is that they were making something that was completely and utterly stupid. And they didn't realize that that thing completely and utterly was based upon fiction. And it could never work. Literally, I think that people didn't realize that the Marvel Cinematic Universe is based on Greek and Norse mythology. and also different cultures and different deities too. People don't have any idea sometimes that any comic book that they're reading is based completely on just complete another fiction, and they don't realize that that fiction itself, or that mythological character that they decided to emulate, or try to build a freaking systematic downfall of certain governments because of something they saw or read in a book. Because people can be crazy even though they read books too. I'm gonna take that car. A lot of times that people don't understand is what they really don't understand is that when you don't cut, or when you don't measure twice and cut once, you measure like 700 times. Everyone thinks that you measure twice and you cut once. You don't realize that inside your mind there is a piece of your brain that is specifically used for measurement sometimes, because you always go back to that certain area where you kind of twiddle your thumbs and do a different thing because you're trying to figure out something, and you're trying to not move a part of your brain, but you're trying to fire synapse to be able to figure out a certain problem. And that reflex itself is you measuring things over 3,000 to 4,000 times. In your mind, eyeing things up and constantly eyeing things up. And there are people that are extremely and very good at it. Understandably so, they have the right equipment for the actual job. Alright, cool, they all left. There are a lot of times when people didn't realize that that there were a lot of different people in certain areas where they didn't understand or notice a certain kind of bot, I guess, enacting itself, I guess. I don't know. Not a certain bot, but a certain emotional neutrality. Yeah. And when that certain emotional neutrality decided to come around, they decided to try to emulate something. And that's where I think the Norse god of what's the word? The Norse god of what's the word? That's actually it right there. That's it. That's it right there. I get it. Right now. It's the Matrix is based off of the god of Narcissus. I freaking figured it out. That's awesome, right? Ah, awesome. Narcissus. It was not Narcissus. Oh fucking goddamn it. The word is based on. It's Oh damn it. What's his name? Freaking. It's based off Adonis. Yeah. An entire world or entire society torn apart by the way that you look. It's based off Adonis. Completely. The Norse god of or the god of the Greek god of oh dang it, what is it, the Greek god of vanity. And that's the reason why the Matrix itself is such an amazing epic, I think. Because people try to take those normal emotions, those normal different thoughts, and actually people didn't understand this, is that the Greek and Norse and all those different gods were based off certain emotions. They're all based off certain emotions, and if they ever existed, they got therapy and then realized that they would live for some odd years because of their emotional thing. I guess they would live for so many some odd years and then die and then live again and stuff like that. And that's the reason why they're considered gods among men or something like that. So that's the story, the way the story goes. But that was Adonis, the god of vanity, I think, or the prophet of vanity, or something like that. And so a lot of times people don't understand that that there are a lot of things that people don't get sometimes, because they think that there are a lot of different things involved, because they think that somehow they're not able to grasp a certain thing. But also they have to understand that in a former situation they decided not to grasp that because they found it boring. So the reason why certain people find things boring is because they want to control markets. Bringing it back to reality and understanding that certain people themselves are vain in certain ways. And shut up. All right. They're vain in certain ways, and they believe that certain markets will go a certain way. It affects their systematic ability to quantify. And that's what I think the part of my brain that's kind of overly fixing itself, I guess, or making something of itself, because yeah, it is. And realization of fact is that people don't get things sometimes because they're kind of stupid. The realization of certain things that certain people don't get is what they really don't get sometimes is that no matter what, people gain back certain memories. No matter what. So realization of fact is that no matter what they get from those certain memories, no matter how they get them, what they'll absolutely and utterly realize is that people don't understand that people will always get those memories back. So, once they realize that those memories are lying dormant within their own brain, waiting for a synapse to fire, they realize also that as that thing is happening, they're acting an unbelievable amount of insensitive towards people. Okay, and being insensitive towards people can sometimes affect their alchemy. Understand? Yeah, what? That's alchemic, bro. There is a certain part of my brain that still wants to believe in fictional things sometimes, and you have to understand that that part of my brain has to understand that it can't randomly fight off different sorts of evil inside of a fictional world. Understandably so. They have to understand that there are a lot of people that in that particular thing of people who used science as a means to be able to protect themselves. That's the reason why alchemy exists within science. Okay? The reason why alchemy exists within science is because of all that different stuff. And the reasons why people aren't going to understand is why chemicals can turn metals and have different properties. That's the reason why metals and things like that and jewels are going to be breaking down in value, and unbelievable amounts of metals and different things that are buried in the desert, you know, just waiting to be found. You know, they're very valuable, and they're way more valuable than any jewel that ever was, and completely way more valuable because of its properties. A metal that can shift its ionic bonds at will, and I know it to be true because there is a certain thing that I saw on a thing, and man, I just saw the what's the word? People didn't understand that that they don't know that boards are a real and actual thing. They're trying to create it without creating an ionic processor, I guess, an ionic bond processor, and they think that that thing is basically kaput. And I know it to be an actual thing because I've seen schematics for it. It's literally on T-shirts. That ionic pulsator that's on the back of the DeLorean, the actual thing that is on the back of that thing is an actual ionic processor. It's not an actual ionic processor, but it's what an ionic processor would look like, and the schematics of it are basically in the lore of literally the freaking, what is it? Back to the Future, motherfuckers. Literally, it's real. It's not real, but realize that we're back in the future of learning something that we probably learned a long time ago and then probably got wiped out. Understanding that's probably the reasons why technology itself has built itself to be able to have so many different applications is because people are starting to remember things that they didn't really remember, and they don't understand that they studied and they realized that they put two and two together. And that's where I think the ability to be able to not read a book and come up with something completely amazing is. Because a lot of times people didn't understand that those movies were based off of different things that people had found out. About government corporations using different things and trying out different stuff. They would discontinue it after people actually found out. What they're going to have to understand is that they're going to pick that back up. They're going to realize that there is a freaking awesome metal out there that is just waiting to be discovered. And I know it for a fact. And I know it because of the way that a moon rock glistens. The way that it glistens is the way that it actually switches out ions and actually becomes alive. That's the reason why they made that movie about that fiction where the moon itself was actually alive and had creatures on it and stuff like that. And basically that's like what would happen if people started polluting the moon or anything like that. Like, things would start to become alive. And that's the reason why I have to tell them that all the planets are alive. Once again, if you don't believe me, all the planets are alive. It's not a religion, it's real. That's the reason they change. It's the reason why they go through certain fungi infections and are completely and utterly safe. And that's the reason why they're basically held and meant to hold certain kind of things. People. Creations, I guess. Certain things like tools and people and a whole bunch of different other things. Realize that there is so much stuff to actually be able to find within that desert. Like I said before, I know for a fact that the pyramids were exactly and pretty much a money laundering scheme. It was based upon a scam, and it was based upon the fact that people themselves who rose to power would stay in power. So a lot of people hid things in the desert, thinking that the people would find them later on. They would use the desert as banks sometimes, and then they would forget about it because they would be lost within their generations. And that's the reason why sometimes they want everyone out of the desert and they're all trying to search for shit. Understandably so, they're not trying to search for shit, they're just trying to kill people. And it's stupid. And it usually goes to the highest bidder because some people don't even own their countries anymore. Saudi Arabia isn't a country anymore. You have to understand that if those metals ever got out and got into the hands of complete and utter terrorists and people that were just completely hell-bent on making something happen no matter what, they could kill a lot of people. And they could kill a lot of people because of certain ionic tensions that happen within a certain metal and the reasons why certain things have to be enacted. And if they ever make some sort of thing like that, ionic skateboard, a flying car, because that's all it does, is it flies. I'm saying that it just, I'm thinking that it just went to different places if it was ever real. It's usually not, because it's not real. Understandably so, it probably drives really fast and flies, but it realized too that that's probably the reason why it has those wide turns, because it has turbines on the bottom as well. All right. And those are ionic turbines, the reason why it doesn't burn. The reason why it doesn't burn people's faces off is because it's an ionic turbine. Just literally doesn't take the ionic bonds out of your thing, because people don't realize that their processes, the things that make the synapses fire in their brain, isn't what they actually think it is. It's not a high processor. It's not a complete and utter process that you have to keep constantly reminding themselves about. They can make a reflex that will hurt themselves or could hurt someone else if they constantly do something that's stupid. But understanding that, making those processes and understanding those different things, they have to understand that realizations of fact is that a lot of times people didn't understand that alright, cool. People didn't understand that there were a lot of things out there that could really, really harm you. Okay? And that's one of the metals that can't, because I know for a fact that it merely just reacts to touch. It reacts to the ionic bonds around you, or around itself. And it looks like clear. It looks like sand, basically. Because of the sand that it was basically around, and the ionic bonds that it emulated. Because metals can emulate things. That's the reason why sometimes metals can be weaker in certain points than other places, is because they got the ionic processes of something that was close to it. And this is why I know for a fact that, I know for an absolute fact, that ionic bonds, if metals are put together that are ionically charged, they affect each other's ions and they gain properties of different metals. It's the reason why whenever something's left out that's never going to rust inside of somewhere, because the air itself isn't constantly moving. Understandably so, there are minerals that constantly wear back on a paint or something like that. And people don't understand that rust is not actually a metal. It's a mineral deposit and corrosion of that mineral deposit. And that's the reason why. They have to understand that that's the reason why that metal will never rust. It will literally never rust, and it is somewhere in that desert. And there's a lot of it. Whatever desert you're looking for, guys, whatever thing you're digging at, realize that there are people out there that want to find that metal and be able to use it to be able to make some extremely amazing things. And it would be one of the strongest metals that I know of. And it would also be able to, undoubtedly, if ionically charged in a certain polarity, be able to levitate completely by itself. Because of the simple ionic bonds that are within the Earth and the way that they would repel the ionic bonds that are below it. So realize it's real. It's fucking real. And it's not a movie. I never saw it. Never saw it at all. I just realized there was a lot of metals in the places where people were. Because that's the reason why things become magnetic without ever even touching a magnet. That's the reason why. Because things become magnetic without ever touching a magnet. Because of certain ionic bonds within something. And they have to understand that there are no illegalities about it. Completely none. Except, understandably so, you can't kill people for it. You can't try to send people to go work in mines and stuff like that without any pay. Because that's pretty much what they were using all the slave workers for. And the reasons why they were trying to tell all those kids, and the reason why they try to kidnap more kids, to try to create an inconsistency in their mind, and try to suggest to them different things, and try to feed them well, and do a whole bunch of different stuff. You have to understand that those kids were put through a lot of different shit, and usually they get themselves out of it. You have to understand. They really do. And usually they try to manipulate the kidnappers into giving them what they want. And then when they get what they want, they just walk off and they never find them. Because they know that's the reason why people used to wear bright colors in the dark. And I know this for a fact, is because they'd sit behind the fire sometimes, and sometimes people were so dark in color in Africa they couldn't see each other. So that's the reason why I think that they would use those certain garments, is to be able to see each other, but also too realizing the fact that they would take those off at night and put on something completely different that blended in with the darkness. But also too, I think people need to understand that I'm going off track. But ionic bond metal, man, it's freaking amazing. It's always going to be there, and it could probably even change color on command. It's freaking awesome. It's freaking amazing, and I know it because of metal that can get metallic or not metal that can get magnetic because of because of ionic bonds within it. And the fact is, if a metal was ever taught that or something, if a metal was ever charged through an ionic bond, shifting its ions completely over, they'd understand that the carbon itself would become completely and utterly seamless. It would be the strongest metal known to anyone, and it would make any alloy extremely and utterly completely strong. And they have to understand that if they have it, or if they ever have it, or if anyone ever has any of it, they're going to be the most powerful person in the entire universe. The entire universe. Not the entire planet, the entire universe. Powerful as in money-wise, not powerful as in power, because if they don't have power, then they can't do anything. Realizations of fact is that people are just trying to trying to be able to make certain things that are stupid, and every once in a while I try to say something about myself when I'm silent, to be able to keep on saying the notions, or be able to practice or talk to myself or talk to anything. And yes, I'm out here in nature, observing nature. It's the reason why sometimes people are actually observing nature sometimes. So they're actually looking for shit. Looking for certain tells, for certain ways that plants grew, the ways that they grew, and the metals that were near them, and the reasons why it actually made them grow a certain way. And they have a lot of different reasons for it, for polarities having to be pulled, and people are going to understand the reasons why some plants are literally all metal. That's not petrified wood, guys, but petrified wood is rock. That's a metal wood, and literally, there is a sword. If there ever was a sword that is a metal wood, in certain ways that it was actually used, the process that was actually done. Literally, that movie about the dude with the mythological creatures with Keanu Reeves could have been real. Reeves and all those people, of all that stuff that literally could actually exist. There are men that have made processes of different ionic bonds through metals, switching out ions and realizing that carbon and ions are completely and utterly separate. The carbon floats around it, basically, completely encasing whatever it is. And as soon as the ionic bonds move, you can shift something going back and forward just by leaning forward or moving back. So it's fucking badass, man. It's so badass. And Back to the Future is not real, but the stuff inside of it is based upon stuff that they were working on in the goddamn 70s. So realize that shit, man. It's fucking crazy, guys. And realize it's not crazy. It's amazing. And it's awesome. And it's completely astounding. And it's all in the Library of Congress, because people don't understand that those metals, they don't name them at all, because they're technically not actually named yet. And I'm going to name it, guys. It's called Super Awesome Amazing Metal. Super. It's funny. All right. Realizing that there are a lot of different people out there that really do some really amazing things and really help me be able to get back certain facts of my life and things of my friends, and realization of fact is that I was going through a very big depression part of my life and depressive part of my life, and they're gonna understand that that no matter what happens, I think my friends need to understand that I have their backs, and in any situation, but they have to understand too that if they ever scare me, then I'm gonna spank them. I'm gonna spank them very hard. I'm gonna spank them really hard. I'm spank them. I will spank them. And spank them. I'll spank them. Understanding that understanding that there are a lot of times where people did things that are really, really cool. Understanding all that stuff, I have to stop it now. I'm at 56 minutes, and I tried to go on a little bit further, but I ran out of complete and utter space, and I'm not trying to push myself too hard. So and I'm gonna go take my medicine now. All right, have a good day and enjoy yourself. Be yourself, and understand that there are people out there that care and want to be a part of your life, and realize that there are people out there that love you, and there are people out there that care. And sometimes, if there's no one that cares, then there's usually someone that cares in a different place. Be yourself, and understand that there are people out there that are really, really, really helpful, and really, really work to be able to make something better. And through all of those stupid remarks about people doing stupid shit and saying stupid shit, that stuff takes a back seat to the fact that there is something so absolutely amazing out there that it could revolutionize the entire industry of metal and completely and utterly change everything forever. And dirt is still on the mind of people who are still freaking trying to fight. Realize, just sell the dirt. Just sell it. Come up with paperwork later. Sell the dirt. Alright, so enjoy yourselves, and alright, have a good day, and be yourselves, and you are your own one-man metaphorical personal bomb squad. You can defuse situations before they happen, and you can try to kick me off of a surfer as much as you want to, but it's not going to happen, and I'm going to go back, and I'm probably going to just keep talking to myself and making through all the stuff that I think is really helpful and is my own personal therapy. So people have to realize that people can use and share their lives on YouTube, and that's the reason why they share their lives on YouTube. Understandably so, they don't talk about themselves a whole bunch. I like to, but I don't share certain details, like my credit card numbers or my social security number. Never do that ever. So thanks, guys. Understand that there are things out there, people, amazing, awesome, beautiful, so do. Have a good day, and enjoy the life that is about to change forever and will revolutionize everything you've ever heard about anything. It's seriously happening, and it's so going to be amazing. It's going to be so awesome.